it was something I wanted to do. It's for people that live through the 80s so they can relive it, because we all look back at the 80s kind of through rose-tinted glasses, you know, how good it was. But it's also for people that missed out on it and have just heard how good it was through their parents.
Yeah.
So it's for them as well.
And you were right at the epicentre of it. I mean, how you met your wife is basically the most 80s story imaginable. I mean, George Michael set you up.
Yep.
And you met Shirley, who everyone knows, Pepsi and Shirley.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I ever saw my wife, she was dancing on top of the Pops with Wham, doing Young Guns. And then, like you say, you know, George set us up and put us together, and we've been together since for the last 40 years, you know.
So he would play you Wham songs. I mean, you were the first to hear Wake Me Up Before You Go.
Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. Well, the true story of that is that one evening I was out with George and we went for dinner, and then I went back to his house and I left my jacket at his house. And so in the morning, I went up, Shirley took me over to George's house again to pick the jacket up. And George opened the door and he said, "Mark, come in." He said, "I want to show you something." So we went upstairs to his bedroom and he played Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. And so I heard it, you know, and I said all the sort of things that you should say, like how good it was, and it was a fabulous record. And then I went downstairs to the car, got in with Shirley, and I said, "That's it. Career's over. It's rubbish." So I completely got that one wrong. But to be fair, you know, I remember standing in Psalm West when we were recording Do They Know It's Christmas, the Band-Aid single with George, and he was telling me how he thought all the words were terrible to Do They Know It's Christmas. So I always look at it like it was 1-1.
Yeah,
we both got one wrong. Yeah.
I mean, we talk about songs like that are just part of our pop history now, aren't they? And we still hear them on the radio all the time. What about Kate Bush going back up the charts, and your son Roman's playing these songs on the radio now, isn't he?
It really was my ticket to the world, you know. It was a door that opened up to me, and it was the 80s that was the decade that kind of took it off. And but like you say, you know, Roman now is back into the 80s. He's enjoying all the songs from there, because it was a decade where it was all about bands and it was all about good songs. If you could write good songs, then you were going to get a hit. Where the 90s was more about a DJ culture, where they would pick up a record and then remix it. But the 80s, listen, we all know how good the songs were back in the 80s.
The other George on Band-Aid, Boy George, I mean, he makes fleeting appearances in the book. Have you seen him on I'm Celebrity? I mean, how do you think he's doing?
Of course I have. I love George on I'm a Celebrity because he is being himself. You know, I listen, all credit to him for even being on there. No makeup at all. It's the first time for years I've ever seen George.
That's going to be hard for him.
Well, yeah, without no makeup
looks good,
on.
though, doesn't he, in the hair and
I think
everything?
he's absolutely brilliant.
Your book, though, Martin, it ends at the end of the 80s. Some people would be disappointed by that. There must be much more to come if you've got another book in you.
Well, there might be. But, yeah, of course. I mean, I've got one in me. It's whether or not people want that. But, I mean, I just wanted to write about the 80s as a decade. I thought that was really interesting. What I didn't want to do was go through the whole thing of growing up. You know that bit in the books where everybody skips and they go through it really quickly? Oh, this is when I was 12 years old and I grew up, and my mum and dad thought this and they thought that. I wanted to jump all that bit and I wanted to get straight into the meat. And the meat for me was the 80s.
The book's out now. Martin, you're a legend. That much is true. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, Martin.
You've been working on that.
You can talk about that all day.